Thanks for tuning in to The Real Deal Show, brought to you by ebodyboarding.com and Tribe Boards. Well, hey there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to The Real Deal Show. I'm Jay Reale. If you don't know the man sitting next to me, then you should just crawl into a cave and die. I'm just kidding, of course. But this man is a legend in the sport of bodyboarding. We're going to talk about his career a little bit and about our lives together because we have a long history, almost 40 years as friends. This is Keith Sasaki. Welcome, Keith.
Thank you very much, Jay. Your introduction, yeah, some people may recognize me when I was 80 pounds lighter and had more hair, etc.
Yeah,
but still the sarcastic guy that I met, or Jay met in the early 80s.
Yeah, so it was 1982. I met you on the North Shore. I was there for the Pipe event, and you were there because you were a pro team rider for Maury bodyboards.
Yep. I remember the trip quite well, and I keep bringing back a story, and you keep telling me, no, that's not right, that's not right. I keep telling you that you had your twin fins, your hollowed out twin fins, and you were wearing a long sleeve spring suit on the North Shore, but I don't think it was a long sleeve spring suit, was it?
It was a short sleeve spring.
Yeah.
Protect me from the reef.
Yeah. The fun times, going back to 1982, and here we are. Yeah, you are right. Just about 40 years ago. So, yeah, good times.
Just under 40 years. So, Keith, let's go back a little before that, though. So, you grew up in a little suburb of Honolulu called Kaimuki, right?
Kaimuki area, which is roughly 2 miles away from the beach. But, prior to that, my family was just like many Hawaiian families. You're born and raised on the beach.
Right.
And, we spent a lot of time on the beach when I was a little kid, fishing, swimming, longboarding, surfing, etc., getting into trouble as well.
Yep.
In the Waikiki area. So it was only natural that when I was probably in the 6th or 7th grade, a bunch of friends asked me, hey, you want to go to the beach? I accepted, and it was funny enough. They didn't really have to pull my arm at all, and the next thing I know, I'm back down at Waikiki and closer to the wall where it all started. Yeah.
So you were a wall local from an early age. You're pretty. I mean, you said about 13.
How
old?
Probably a little before that. I'm born in June, so yeah, we it's more like 12 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, by today's standard, that's like a late start for somebody to get started in bodyboarding.
Yeah.
But hell, the boards were just invented, right? Not long before you and I started.
Right. Yeah, certainly. And then also, actually, I body surfed for about a year, maybe a little less than that. And then one day, catching the bus home, I'm sitting down, and all of a sudden I see this tall guy come in, and he has a pair of Churchill fins, and I look at that guy. Kind of looks familiar, don't really think about it. Then the next day he comes on the bus again, and he sits next to me. Then I remembered I saw this guy's photo on a board at Sears Roebuck's, and that was Jack the Ripper Lindholm.
Oh, classic.
Right?
Yep.
And Jack was several years older than I was, and then at that point, I had to have a bodyboard.
Yep.
Right. And I had two or three friends that were bodyboarding, boogie boarding.
Yep.
Right.
Which we called it then.
Yeah. I'm a boogie boarder again. But anyways, I had a few friends that were doing it, prone riding, sliding around. But that first introduction to Jack, and me always being different and weird, I said I got to do that. And so when I got one, I actually didn't go straight to the jack stance. I actually rode double knee.
Okay.
For several months, and I got really good at it.
Yeah, man.
Then one day, the knee came up, the left knee came up, contrary to Jack, whose right knee comes up because as he's a goofy footer, and it just all started.
Yeah.
It just all started.
So he was the early influence. I mean, for a lot of us, I think the first picture I ever saw of anyone doing drop knee, which then was called jack stance, really, was a picture of Jack in a magazine. And so he had a lot of influence on guys of our generation, I think, just by being sort of the first guy to do it. But, you know, he started over at Sandy's in Makapu, right?
I believe so. You know, I believe so. And then it was probably about the same time, you know, photos of him emerged attacking pipeline.
Yeah.
And the way he attacked it on those flimsy boards with no stringers. You know, they were the 132 series, if not earlier boards than that. And the bottom turns that he was performing just was mind-blowing.
So, yeah, I mean, it was like an exercise mat, those things that he rode. I don't know how he did that.
Yeah. You know, Jack had that talent. Jack was a little different in that his stance was pretty compact. You know, for a tall guy, Jack's probably 6'1", 6'2", and he sat more down on his board. So the center of gravity was a little more centered, and I think that allowed him to actually really crank those bottom turns. And he grabbed the rail. He grabbed the rail and he pulled up on it. But the angle of the board on the bottom turn, especially for a still photo.
It's like the back corner is all that's in the water.
Oh, maybe the back 4 or 5 inches.
It's
you know, so
gnarly that he could do that.
You know, so whenever I see those original photos and people start praising Jack, you know, the first thing that comes to mind is, yeah, you know, I had a great career, you know, doing the Jack stance as well, but I'm just a copy of an original.
Well, let's talk about that though, because you may have been inspired by the original, but you took drop knee in a completely different direction and really set the stage for everyone that came after you. Paul Roach, Aka Lyman, Dave Ballard, even Matt Lackey, all were, in my opinion, and myself, were all influenced by your interpretation of the drop knee stance. So what inspired you to take it from what Jack was doing to the high performance style of drop knee riding that you brought to the sport?
Okay, so yeah, Jack definitely first influence, but at the same time, the amount of photos that we were exposed to were very few, and it was a lot easier to pick up a surfing magazine.
Yep.
So I picked up a surfing magazine, and there were 2 surfers that really stuck out. One of them was Mark Richards, you know, his just radical style, his foot forward.
Yep.
You know, I really liked that, so I incorporated that a little bit into my riding. And then there's a second guy, Sean Thompson.
Yep.
You know, doing big bottom turns and stylish, and that's why I'm stylish these days. You know, I got that from Sean.
Yep.
It's funny because when I do see Sean and I bring that up to him, he just starts laughing. But yeah, so it you know, Jack's original Jack stance.
Yep.
Knee drop. We even called it knee drop back in the day.
Yeah.
Influenced by the style of Mark Richards and Sean Thompson, morphed itself into my style of riding, which is a little more upright.
Yep.
And allows the upper body to guide and steer a little. Yeah.
Yeah, and that did really well for you. Obviously, initially you got noticed by Patty Serrano, right?
Yeah, it's funny is that it was, I believe, the beginning of August in 1980. We had a really good session at the Waikiki Wall, and this one kid, the only thing I can tell you is a redhead kid came up to me and asked me, "Hey, you entering a contest tomorrow?" And I said, "What contest?" He said, "There's one at Point Panic. You should check it out."
Such a good wave for you.
Yeah. But the whole deal was, the deal with me and my mom was basically I'll go to the beach every day whenever I wanted to, but I'd surf the wall.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Okay. So she was comfortable with you being at the wall because she knew people or whatever.
Right.
Knew where you were.
Exactly. But you know, over the course of the year and a half that I've been bodyboarding, I sneak over to Queens, which is another nice right and left, crowded with a lot of longboard surfers back then, and you know, a lot of uncles.
Yeah.
So I went home and I said, "Hey, there's a contest. I really like to enter it." And I told him it was Point Panic, and she said, "Oh no, you know what? You only can surf the wall."
Oh no!
So I explained, "Hey, I've been surfing other spots." She gave me that opportunity. But take it one step back. Is about a year before that, probably I've been riding for only about 6 months. There was a contest at the wall, and I won it. It was a 12 to 14 division. I think I was 14 years old, so I won it then. But anyways, going back to the Point Panic contest, I got there and it was completely different. Waves were 3 to 4 feet. I remember seeing Ben Severson there. Ben as a toe-headed kid.
And you didn't know him at that point?
No, we didn't know anybody. Entered the contest, blitzed all my heats, and won the event. I won some prizes.
Yeah.
Was really happy with it. It was the first taste of Bob and Jan Thomas as well.
Yeah.
And I was really happy.
Yeah.
I didn't think anything about it. And then Patty was there with I can't really remember. I believe Mike Lambrisi was there. I believe it was Scott Evans, and I'm not sure who else.
Yeah.
But they were there, and I got to see them ride. And I was impressed with their riding, but Point Panic, it's tailor made, tailor made for my style, and so I won it. And then about a week later, Roger Kundle, who was the Maury rep back then, had gotten my name from Bob Thomas because I put my phone number on the entry form. And he spoke to my mom and said, "Listen, we have the I forget the name of the event, 1980 Sun-Kissed National Championships at Redondo Breakwater, and we would like to invite Keith to the event."
Man. And you had never been to the mainland, probably never left Hawaii.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Kauai was the furthest I've been, back then, and It was really something, and my mom and dad took the chance. They went into their savings, gave me the $600.
Wow!
Right, the prize money in itself was $600.
Killer.
Yeah. Entered the event, won the event, and that was the big break from both Patty Serrano and Roger Kundle.
Wow! So those of you that don't know, Patty was the marketing and promotions person for Maury bodyboards back then, and Roger Kundle was the sales rep in Hawaii at the time. So they were actively looking for riders in Hawaii to represent the brand.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was the actual goal at that point, but the fact that they had the contest, I think it sparked an idea.
Yeah,
it sparked an idea. Around the same time, Ben's name had gotten to California. So did Pat Caldwell's name.
Yep.
And obviously, the established Jack Lindholm was already known by Maury. We can't forget J.P. Patterson as well. J.P. already had an established name. So that was the true beginnings, and then I believe it was the next year. Mary Lee Christensen had moved into the role of marketing manager, and that was my first real introduction to Pat Caldwell and Ben Severson. Pat and Ben knew each other because they surfed Sandy Beach together.
Yep.
And I think we met it wasn't the Outrigger Canoe Club, it was the hotel next to the Outrigger Canoe Club, because Mary Lee always stayed there quite a bit. And so we met, and we went out to the North Shore, just kind of like as an intro day, and we became Maury team riders.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you're a Maury team rider, but just like you're gonna represent Maury.
Yeah.
Right? And it was pretty cool. We got a board or two or whatever it was, and then we thought that was the greatest thing in the world.
Oh heck yeah! Back then.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah. And also knowing that we were representing Maury, and then the bigger piece, the bigger carrot on the stick back then was the the Maury National Championships.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
In Oceanside.
Well, actually, okay, so 80 was at Redondo Breakwater.
Okay.
Yeah. 81 was at Huntington Beach, which I won.
Yeah.
JP got second.
JP, when I have him on here, I'm going to remind him about that.
JP was ripping. JP was doing his multiple belly spinners faster than anybody. I mean, the only other person that I've seen do multiple belly spinners as fast as JP is Big Burkhart.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Kevin Serve.
Kevin did them fast, but I tell you what, Big Burks. Big Burks, man, for a guy that big and busting out his belly spins. Yeah. And then and after that, 82, it moved down to Oceanside, and the events would either happen at the pier or North Beach. I think it's called North Beach or the harbor.
North Jetty.
North Jetty. Yeah. So it alternated, and that's where they had it ever since.
Nice.
Yeah.
So at some point over in Hawaii, obviously you do these events in California, you'd kill it, you'd win it, you'd go back. And you were a wall rat, really. That's what they called the guys that went to Waikiki walls every day and surfed. But at some point, you sort of graduated over to Kaiser's, I think, right?
Yeah.
Because that's a pretty epic wave. You don't want people to know about that because it's a secret spot, right? Nobody knows about that. But no, I mean, that was 40 years ago. So
I started surfing more the outer reefs, and Kaiser's was one of them. Threes, pops, canoes, courts. And the funny thing is, all these breaks were rights.
Yeah.
Especially the wall, and because of that, I became very disadvantaged in that I could never go left. And I still joke about it. I can't go left. Which is funny.
Which is not true. I've seen this guy tear the bag out of left-handers.
But it's funny is if it's 2 feet, I can't go left. I have an easier time if it's a lot bigger going left. I'm not really sure why.
I think I mean because on a small right you can pump because you're front side, but backhand it's harder to pump drop knee, right? So you need a little more juice on the left. At least with me, that's the case. I can't pump quite as good. So yeah. I don't know, maybe that's it.
So yeah, I again, surfing those reefs on the South Shore were all rights. And then one year, I think it was 82, 83, Pat and myself and Ben, we really bonded.
Yep. And
the North Shore, there was a year that the North Shore, the waves never dropped under 25 feet or whatever it was. And a lot of it was coming in from the north. And the winds were always bad for the North Shore.
Yep.
It was more out of the westerly direction. And Pat, Ben, and I, and Pat's brother-in-law back then, James Johnson, really good body surfer, we would frequent a couple spots near Sandy Beach. And one of them was a nice right hand, which I really liked. It was really shallow. But the swells really catered more to a spot called, we call it doubles.
Yep.
But it's actually doubles.
Yeah.
And it was lefts. So I learned how to, I cut my teeth on those lefts there. Yeah.
Right on. So you and then you started going to Sandy's a bit, right? Did you make that a regular thing or just once in a while?
No, so it was funny because back then Pat would surf the South Shore, but Pat would mainly surf a lot of the reefs close to the Outrigger Canoe Club, which are really, really good reefs. And then after meeting Pat, I'd take Pat out to Kaiser's and stuff. And at the same time, Pat would take me to Makapu and Sandy's.
Okay.
Pat was a student back then, and it was funny. Pat was a student, and I didn't have a car. So we stay in touch. And hey, Pat, what time you finish school today? 2:00. I'm going to Sandy's after. Hey, pick me up.
Perfect.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. And then Pat at the same time. The unannounced deal back then was, yeah, Pat, let's go surf. After surf, let's go to my house. Let's go eat. And Pat became my mom's sixth child, basically. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Really, and that's how it is in Hawaii.
Yeah, everybody kind of is family.
Yeah. So I started surfing sandies quite a bit. It was different just because sandies was a completely different animal. It came out of deep water, jacked up really quickly, and hit the sand pretty fast.
Yeah.
So, but I learned it. And I adapted pretty well. And eventually, some of the other wall rats started going to sandies. Other wall rats, Cave and Okamura, really good prone rider back then. I mean, really, really ahead of his time, doing really big aerials in like 1982, 83.
Yeah.
I mean, doing inverted aerials. A little kid back then that we used to torture, Kainoa McGee.
What was Kainoa's nickname back then? And why?
That's another
Should
podcast.
we not bring that
That's
up?
another podcast.
Kainoa, we're gonna let that out of the bag.
I love Kainoa. Kainoa loves me, but
yeah.
well,
hey man, he had to pay his dues like everybody else.
It's funny, we look at Kainoa these days, and he's 6'3" or 6'2" beast, but big heart.
He's a big dude with a big heart.
Yeah,
for sure.
Exactly.
And rips on all kinds of boards.
He definitely does. Does. But yeah, so the wall rats started surfing sandies, and Dean Marzol, Parker Tom.
Yep.
Yeah, and we brought the South Shore style of riding, and we morphed it into something different.
And everybody learned from each other, really. The Sandy Beach crew learned stuff from you guys too.
Yeah.
It was a mutual beneficial
it was
thing.
pretty cool. Yeah.
So all right, so let's move into the PSAA tour, the Pro Surfers Association of America.
Mm-hmm.
Joey Baran, who was a top pro surfer back in the 80s, started up this tour here in California, right? And you and all the guys in Hawaii jumped right on. They were going to have a bodyboarding division at all their events. So when did that start? Mid-80s, right? Okay,
so the funny thing is, I have a really good friend in California. I'm staying at his house, as a matter of fact. His name's Andy Fomenko. And in 1985, the PSAA, I'm not sure if that was their first or second year already in existence, but they had the regular season PSAA contest, and then they had the PSAA winter season. And Andy eventually won the winter season championships. Going back one step is that, Andy being my good friend, I traveled with him to those events.
Yep.
And, while the events were going on, I'd be bodyboarding. Bodyboarding next to Alan Sarlo.
Yeah.
Another big guy with a big old heart.
Legends.
Yeah.
Bud Lamas,
Scott Daly, back then,
Yeah.
and I got to meet the maestros.
Yep.
And just some backdoor channels or whatever it is between Mary Lee Christensen. I'm not sure whoever else was involved in those conversations, but in 1986, they decided to have a division. I believe the first event was at Ocean Beach, San Francisco.
Okay.
The championships were in Huntington Beach. They had one, and I can't remember the other four venues. Yeah.
But you won that first year of the tour, right?
I did, but it was funny. There's just some calculation errors in that they didn't calculate one of my events, one of my results. It was a low result, and I'd won the Huntington Beach event, and so it was going to be a double whammy on the stage that they were going to announce me winning the championships as well.
So it's double points if you won the championship event or something.
Probably. I'm not 100% sure how it was calculated.
Okay.
But anyways, they had announced Ben as the 1986 champion. And then, it was kind of so, it stole my immediate thunder on the beach. So the next week or so, I went back and I showed them the results and got got the official title.
That you won.
Yeah.
So it was like when what's his name, Steve Harvey, announced the wrong winner to the Miss Universe pageant, and then had to retract it. And in fact, the GOB, you remember, did the same thing with Claudia Ferrari. They announced, I think, Neymar or someone as the winner, and it turned out Claudia won. So that's not unprecedented. But you were, geez, that sucks.
It happens. It happens. You know, results get switched these days.
Yeah. So you are now credited, and rightly so, with winning the first ever U.S. Pro Tour for bodyboarding.
Yeah.
Which is amazing, and you did it all drop knee.
Yeah. It's funny is because going back. As I mentioned, I had a couple of friends that started off prone riding, and after seeing Jack, I said I have to do that.
Yeah.
But I double kneed, and then I started Jack standing, and I never learned how to prone.
Yeah. Well, I know you can prone just fine, but I know you always try to drop knee if you can.
Yeah.
And that served you well in the tour for a few years, because I joined the tour in '87. And you were still like in the top 5, 4, 3, whatever.
Yeah.
But at some point there was a shift in the judging away from rewarding your style of riding, right? And that was a bone of contention for you.
Yeah, it definitely was, because I had won that one event, and then Danny Kim was also having really good results standing up. And when the surfing, because they were surfing judges, when they saw Danny stand up on his bodyboard, they immediately, I'm not saying that they overscored Danny. Danny ripped, but for them it was familiar.
Yeah, they didn't know how to judge bodyboarding.
They didn't know. They didn't know what a whiz bang was. This is the difference between a whiz bang or a belly twirl.
Yeah, tummy twirl.
Tummy twirl. Professional ride.
Mike Chamberlain.
Yeah.
Man.
So eventually, conversations took place, and the judging criteria adjusted, and by adjusting it down, it was somewhat deemed that riding stand up or jack stance drop knee was by choice. So if I did an off the lip, and I did it okay, but someone did an off the lip prone riding and did it really good, that the prone rider would get a better score. Because stand up and jack stance was by choice.
Yeah. So that was a weird time, because I drop kneed a bit in the beginning of my pro career in those events, and I quickly learned it was riskier to drop knee because you could fall, obviously much easier drop kneeing than prone. So I stopped drop kneeing in all the contests to sort of modify my approach to bodyboarding to what the judges wanted to see, which you can debate. That's probably not a good way to go. So then eventually they split off into a separate drop knee and open division. How did you feel when that started happening? That wasn't on the U.S. tour, but later on the world tour.
Yeah, by then my knees By then
your knees are shot.
By then in terms of being hyper competitive, I wasn't doing those events anymore.
Yeah.
So
you didn't really care.
Never really experienced it. Good enough idea.
Yeah.
Good enough idea. Yeah, definitely. But going back to the PSAA tour, is that there were some venues like Hermosa Beach, a couple other, Golden West Street in Huntington Beach,
I see where
which
you're
no
going.
matter how well I rode, I could not compete against Pat Caldwell getting 10-second barrels.
Yeah.
I'm completely covered up, or Ben doing flying squirrel aerials, or Mike just rolling away.
Yeah.
I could not compete it. But there were spots such as Malibu,
Yep.
which I could ride as good as I wanted, and they could not deny giving me the score.
And lowers.
Lowers.
Killed some of those
Yeah,
lowers events, man.
I got ripped off at lowers.
Yeah.
Sebastian Inlet, was another contest that I think that's my last best PSAA result was at Sebastian Inlet, and another wave that really catered to my style.
Yeah.
So when we did get to those venues, I was licking my chops because I knew that the judges could not hide.
Yeah. Right. They couldn't deny what you were doing on those waves.
Right.
No doubt. So, so the PSAA, which eventually became the Bud Surf Tour, that was sort of towards the end of your full-time competitive career. And so just before we move on to the next question, what would you say was the highlight of your competitive career? I mean, you had a ton of highlights, but can you pick one event that really sort of solidified, your what you remember as your most important victory? Or